I hope everybody's having a great week and y'all staying warm. I know some of you have been waiting for a while. Some of you kids fell asleep already. I thank you for your patience and your timing. Like I said before, yeah, boy, there's always a search bar right above this video. Right here. You just type something in, it'll keep your kids entertained for hours. I promise you. I'm working on a lot of things to help kids stay educated, not drop out of school. Um, follow alongside your footsteps and everybody else. Keeping preschool going, morale going, keeping children in literature. You see, literature is so important these days, not just at libraries. People open a whole door of doors. Trust me, kids, it pays off in the end. Your parents are trying to tell you something. Those teachers aren't there to fail you. They're there to help you realize what the real world really is. One day at a time. They can't be in your shoes, but they can guide you. That's what they're there for. They're the beacon that sets the way to a better future, better life. Trust me, it pays. Especially when you're going down that stage and you got a diploma in hand. You don't just see it in movies. Don't drop out. Not worth it. Think really hard. If you want it bad enough, you wouldn't be trying so hard this fall. Much love. Keep going. Never quit. There's no quitters in my family, only winners. Moving right along. Courtesy of Walt Disney movies, Walt Disney selections. I thank the person signing for me. She thought I didn't notice. Oh, a mini. I wonder how they do it so fast. Thank you. Yeah, especially those translating in different languages all over the world for me so people understand what I'm saying. Even those. God bless you. We're here at home, ElizabethTown Kentucky. It snowed. I was so right. It's right. I bet a case of coffee, a barrel. I'd be having my own coffee shop right here in my kitchen. Not a bad idea, considering it's a bachelor pad. So these damsel darlings and everybody else I care for, it's the house of God. All cultures, all races, all religions. Place home. Having served and done so much for the world, here I am. Cozy little fireplace. What can I ask for? There's a queen on the other side of this world who sits next to an empty throne. She watches this channel. Maybe it'll help her grow some courage to rise. Send her butler or a friend to pound the door. Who knows? She'll just watch these in Walt Disney movies or Princess Diaries or Casanova the movie. Keep it angel. You never know. Of friends. People care about people, don't care about false rumors or anyone. They want to see it themselves. After all, they pay for it. I feel for the person who makes 5 cents an hour and ran into some scam artist who claims they know me and don't know me from Adam. I pray never such a day happens. Again, people deserve so much respect, especially those with kids. You deserve to see the person that actually cares about you, even if it's just 5 minutes, 1 hour, or a day at the mall. It's not rocket science. Sometimes you have to do your own homework. It helps. Stay clear of those who tend to be someone that parents will teach you that someday when you're of age, kids. Trust me. Because one day, don't say I didn't tell you. Mi casa, su casa. See? understand English very well. People deserve to be treated as family, not someone from another planet, especially in my eyes. Those who do treat you differently because of what you do in life, or what religion you are, what culture you are, you must pray for them. Pray they change their ways for a greater good. In God's eyes, we're all equal, at least in mine. See the sports jacket I'm wearing? ESPN. Football, baseball, soccer. Yes, understand meaning very well. Watch their heads turn very quickly looking at you just by mentioning ball. You meet the parents in the movie, you'll get that picture at the airport while you're waiting on a canceled flight to become actually running. I don't think that's happening anytime soon, based on the weather I just saw. I feel for you stuck at the airport with a nice shiny light in your face all day long. Aww. Well, at least you get to cozy up to bed by chill. They'll keep you entertained for hours on end. Don't just watch this on the Saints, the movie. Get around. Give me chastity again. Call me Saint Augustus. Saint Sister. Saint Russell. Give me constancy. Here I am. Let's start off with a good story of stories. Dun, 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 dun. It's titled Tangled, Best Wedding Day Ever. See that? Kid, Tangled. God bless those kids out there. Spring had sprung, and Flynn invited Rapunzel to take a special trip with him. Where are we going? She asked. If I tell you, it'll ruin the surprise, Flynn said. Where are we going? She asked. If I tell you, it'll ruin the surprise, Flynn said. With a grin, Max and Pascal decided to come along, too. The evening Flynn took Rapunzel out on the lake. The lovely night reminded them of times past. Flynn wanted to ask Rapunzel to marry him. He reached into his pocket to find the ring, but it wasn't there. It was still on the shore with Max. Luckily, Max noticed the same thing. He sent Pascal flying toward the boat carrying the ring. You see that? Look at that. A photo says 1,000 words in one painting. Even a drawing at Walt Disney. Y'all should see Florida sometime. Walt Disney, not just in movies, happens every day. Dreams are those that come true. Now that Flynn had the ring asked, Rapunzel, will you marry me? Of course, Rapunzel said. On their way home, Rapunzel wanted to tell everyone the happy news. Their friends at the Snuggly Duckling were delighted. Everyone offered to help the couple with the wedding. The wedding, a big wedding. You see them? They're all getting ready. Look at that. Matilda helped Rapunzel design a cake. They baked and iced, and finally Rapunzel had the perfect wedding cake. For the decorations, Rapunzel looked at many fancy bouquets, but it took a field of wildflowers to please Rapunzel. Then Flynn and Rapunzel asked Pascal and Maximus a very important question. Will you be our ring bearers? They answered with delight and squeal and neigh. You ever been a ring bearer? Quite interesting, is it not, walking down the aisle and you're a ring bearer and you're throwing flowers everywhere? Or rice, or love, or prayer. When it came time to find a dress, Rapunzel tried on a gown after gown. But none of the dresses were quite right, so Rapunzel decided to create her own. She sketched and sketched until the design was exactly what she wanted. On the morning of the wedding, everyone waved to the king and queen in the royal coach. When the coach arrived at the church, the king greeted Rapunzel. He proudly took her arm and the ceremony began. Flynn beamed as Rapunzel walked down the aisle. Meanwhile, something happened. The ring bell. You see that? Look at that. Already to be married. Max had sneezed and Flynn and Rapunzel's wedding rings had rolled away. Where'd they go? Max chased one ring, and Pascal chased the other right through the reception decoration. They arrived back at the ceremony just in time. Max and Pascal saved the wedding by finding the rings, but everything for the reception had been ruined. But Rapunzel and Flynn didn't have to worry for long. Friends who had helped them plan their special day also helped them clean up. Soon the couple was dancing happily. As Tor adjusted the last of the flowers, Rapunzel and Flynn took their first taste of the wedding cake. Look at them tasting the wedding cake. Look. You see them? They're tasting. Square. Kids. The new couple were thankful their friends had helped them prepare the perfect wedding party. As they rode away, Rapunzel cried out happily, "Best day out." Then, just married. See that? Happily married. Now, when you get a chance, go see Walt Disney movies in Orlando Studios in Florida. They got the new Harry Potter area opened up. For all you Harry Potter fans. Yeah, love it. Don't just see it in movies. Go see. Take your parents, tell them go take you to Orlando Studios. Orlando, Florida, you there. Busch Garden, Square. Call your local travel agent for further details information. Consension. What else should I read? I know. One that gets to everybody. Think Pinocchio. Close enough. The Lion King, Bob. What is Meryl Streep thinking? What could it be this time to tease those little hearts of yours and make you wait hours on end for the next one? As I said before, don't drive your parents too crazy. Oh, you kids out there. Let's see how. Let's read a Cinderella story. Beauty and the Beast, a special gift. Ta-da! Belly's wedding was just days away. I'm so happy, Belly told Miss Pot. I never dreamed my life would become a great adventure. Then she frowned and said, the prince spent so many lonely years in this castle for our wedding. I want to show him how well loved he is. What a wonderful idea, my dear, said Miss Pot. After she had finished trying on her dress, Belly smiled at her friends. It will mean so much to the prince to have you all there, she said. I know you want to help with the preparations, but you must also help by being our guests. Miss Potts and the other servants worked hard to prepare for the big day. They want the couple to feel love in every detail. Meanwhile, the prince was preparing for the wedding too. I am the happiest man in the world. He told Lemire and Cogsworth, and I want Belle to be the happiest woman. Later that day, the prince had an idea. I'm going to look for a special present for Belle. See that? Looking for a Special present for Belle. What could it be? Who knows, kid? The prince visited every shop in his village. After a careful search, he found the perfect gift for Belle. Then he went to the flower shop to order roses. They're Belle's favorite, explained. What could they be? Indeed. What is this gift I say to you? The wedding day finally arrived. The prince could not take his eyes off Belle when she appeared on the grand staircase. You see Belle? With her father? Not just in Beauty and the Beast, the movie Walt Disney. You must see. Especially the ballroom scene. Your eyes will go wide for hours. I can never get tired of seeing that movie. At the ceremony, Belle read from her favorite book of exciting adventures, but they don't compare to what I feel every day with you, she told the princess. The prince gave Belle his gift, a blank journal. You can fill it with all the adventures we will have together, he said. What is Julia Roberts on a grand occasion would be thinking, keeping her in prayer. Everybody else who ever starred or acted in a Walt Disney movie. Not just Tinkerbell. There you go. After the ceremony bells and the prince walked into the ballroom, the staff had created a spectacular feast. Thank you, said Belle. But there's so much, I'm not sure you and our whole household can eat all this food. Hugged the kids while they died. She winked at the servants. Cogsworth and the other servants just smiled as the couple went outside. You see that? I'm going outside. Where the entire village was waiting to surprise them, the prince turned to Belle. Did you invite all these people? Yes, Belle said. I wanted to show you how much you are loved. It's a magnificent gift, the prince explained. A gift of gifts. Thank you for coming, the prince repeated over and over. He couldn't stop smiling. When the couple shared the first dance, a shout went out from the crowd. Congratulations. With so many friends gathered around them, Belle and the prince knew that the next chapter of their story would be even greater adventure. Ta-da! The end. Courtesy of Forever After by Walt Disney and Marcy. Sing Beauty and the Beast. What was last weekend's story? President's Day, that's right. By Anne Rockwell and pictures by Lizzie Rock. Squared away. At Bar Library. The favorite gets most of his you kids just arriving on post. I know some of you just got here at 3 in the morning. Your parents are holding you at the airport. Your mom and dad have new orders, or they're deployed away from you for a whole year. I know it's hard. It's not easy for them either. So be patient, because God's watching over them, and God's watching over you too. I know it's very hard and very emotional, especially wanting to hug your mom or dad. Trust me, it's just as even more emotional, especially for the father or mom who only had 5 hours to see their newborn, knowing that by the time they come back, they'll be half grown already. Ironic, isn't it? Serving one country and doing another, being a parent at the same time, multitasking. Especially those trying to graduate with their college degree. They know who they are. Don't give up. You're almost there. If you didn't want it bad, you wouldn't be wanting to walk down that stage with the rest of everybody. Keep going. I did it with one son. Trust me, from experience, it pays off. Having a psychology degree from the University of Phoenix. That's right. They're squared away. They keep everything you have secure. Veterans approved, nationally accreditable. For those of you who do online tasking. Dog ate my homework. Doesn't work with them either, by the way. I thought I'd throw that out. They give you a certain amount of days to catch up, regardless of what excuse you may have. Moving right along. Continuing on to where us younger adults left off. But first, I'm going to say press. For those of you, especially my son, you should be in bed by now. Just remember one thing, Quebec, even in prayers, I hear your prayers all over the world. Just remember when you're alone, and all things seem at a loss. You're not at a loss, you're found. Pray for those around you, those that love you, those that miss you, those that want you by their side. Pray for your neighbor's kids, your best pals, day and night. And when you wish upon a star, it's not just Walt Disney looking where you are. Love yourself and those around you. Remember, you're not so alone in the world as you thought. I'm right there, not just around, where you least overlook, right here in your heart. Much love. You sleep. God's watching over you. And those that don't have parents, remember one very important thing throughout the years, the months, the weeks waiting. Care Bear knows that you are worthy as just as much as any other kid next to you and those in foster homes, those around you. I hope God finds you parents worthy of you. I've had adults come up to me and thank God every day of their life, because if it weren't for me, they wouldn't have made it where they are now, especially in uniform. Tell you to your face, I never had parents. You wonder why they're in the barracks room all the time. Why they hardly talk to anybody, thinking nobody will understand. Why they don't go home for the holidays. Whoopsie daisies, you overlooked that one. You thought it was just Notting Hill only. Might want to wake up with a reality check. Someone actually cares about you. And he's sitting right here, talking in front of millions. You kids go to sleep now. Much love, darling. I'll stay warm. Especially me, right here at home, ElizabethTown Kentucky. A lot of history in ElizabethTown. And a lot of museums. Much love. Continuing on, Fergie, composition of the real story, Miss Redhead. Enjoy teasing her on that one. Chris Hutchinson and Peter Thompson, because I can. That's what a friend does. Keeps her going. She's taking notes. And it helps Miss Diana there smile. My school's just letting you have it. No mercy, none. Prologue. I'm sure William here will agree. Come on, chuckle. Continuing on where we left off. Because we are born like this. Keeping them employed. That doesn't mean fall off your treadmill while I'm reading this to you, mind you. Watch out. Don't let it kick you in the rear. Whatever you're doing, cooking, blimey, shenanigans here, almost burnt down the kitchen. I'm listening, kid. Just watch this in movies. Why else would I have the cooking department for your occasion? Y'all didn't use the search bar. That's cheating. Looking at the cooking channel in your area. What is really going on in that stove? They do. Carrying on. What else would be squared away, friends? Have their fire extinguishers handy with your name on it, not far away when you come over for the occasion. waiting to pull it out. Look at or baking soda. In the freezer. That would put out a grease fire in no time. Who would think of that? A fire, geez, that's it. Especially when all else fails. Fires just don't like baking soda. They go out very quickly. Carrying on. Gala dinner for Placido Domingo at the house. Houston grand opening the night before the trial began on Monday, 30th September 1991. Berg, as she was always on her way to a party, she lights the fuse and then steps back into her vast wealth and retreats to a position where she can't hear the explosion when it goes off. Moving on. Yeah. Let's rewind here. In those days, man, the bookmark falls out, and it finally dawned on you, right, you should have. The sloan from St. Trinian, let's start there. Only a mild imperative can persuade husbands and wives to be faithful to each other. Prince Philip, God bless. The door of the smart Knightsbridge office burst open uncertainly, and to Christian Dumont, surprise. In stumbled a young woman who looked not like something out of Bennington or Rowenden, more like St. Trinian's. This was Sarah Ferguson's 19 and anxious to make a good impression, turning up for one of her first job interviews. Things had got more than slightly wrong on the way to Durden Smith Communications, located in an office complex attached to the Basil Street Hotel. They yelled one shoe and snapped off. She had ladders in her stockings. Her umbrella was broken, and she was soaking wet. To Christina, who worked for the public relations company. She was St. Trinian's. She had obviously been out late the night before, and her first words were, "Oh my God, have I bottled it up?" I said no. We tittied her out. She got the job as a secretary. She was a lovely girl and a great girl with a great sense of humor. I couldn't help noticing her hands. They were so beautiful and immaculate. One thing Sarah never quite learned during her blissfully naive, though splendidly liberating years as a training slow ranger was how to make a gracious entrance. She would sort of duck through the door, so Christian and other people would open the door, but with her it would be bang. It would be lifted off its hinges, and those big strides down the hallway the dumber, dumb milkmaid had arrived in town. Sarah might have been more St. Trinian than Bennington, but if genealogy were the art of tracing your roots back to people better than yourself, she was uncommonly well placed. Her family tree included clusters of blue-blooded lords, barons, viscounts, earls, and even grandier dukes. What more, she was related to Prince Andrew and Princess Diana. Her father, Ronald, was the son of Colonel Andrew Ferguson, who was commanding officer of the Sovereign's escort of the Household Cavalry for the King George Silver's Jubilees Parade. When Ronald Ferguson followed in his father's footsteps in the Life Guards and led the Queen escort, she had occasions chid him gently when his mount overshot the mark. "Parade back a bit, Ronald," said Majesty. "They have come to see me, not you." Her mother, Marion Montague Douglas Scott, was the daughter of Lieutenant Colonel Lord Herbert Montague Douglas Scott, son of the sixth Duke of Buscaglia. Sarah's connection with Andrew ran back through this bloodline to James, Duke of Monmouth, who was the illegitimate son of Charles II, and his mistress Lucy Walter. Sarah and Andrew's six cousins were both descendants from the royal house of Stuart. Her kinship with Diana came through Ronald's Aunt Jane and her husband Sir William Fellows. The parents of the widow Sarah Robert then married Diana's elder sister, Lady Jane Spencer. More important than hereditary. In Sarah and Andrew's love story, however, was polo, tough body contact sport for strong men. Sounds familiar with some bright-hand honcho brother from their mom. Even stronger, you don't just wear polo, shake Interesting, is it not? How I know more about you all than you know of me. Who do you think's keeping watch up there? Watch is out for me, too. Not just sits by your bed at night. My bad. However, was part of the top body contact blushing, which of the five placed with equal vigor, and which aroused even stronger passion in the woman who watched it. It was in the pony lines at Smith's Lawn in Windsor Great Park that Sarah first met her husband, and although they were childhood playmates, neither makes much of that early encounter. Sarah met him on the polo field. But then doesn't everybody, said her mother, Susie Barron's and remarked that sounded more snobbish than she intended. It was all the more unfortunate because it was true. Polo was famous as a meeting place for upper-class singles. It was also notorious as a setting for upper-class dalliance. Susie met the man she left her husband for, Hector Barantes, in precisely these surroundings. Nor was Ronald immune. His roving eye had sometimes made Susie feel that she was being taken for granted. It was the polo at Smith's Lawn, Cadre Park, the home of British polo in Sussex, that Sarah, the distant cousin, became very close to Princess Diana. It was the manipulative Diana who decided that Sarah would make an ideal partner for Andrew. The prince she had considered marrying herself before Charles became an even better prospect. Sarah was a willing competitor. And the way two women set about persuading not only Prince Andrew but his family that Sarah was the one that would have their forebears chuckling with glee, the match with Diana doing. In Diana's tennis friend, she wrote the script and Sarah played her role perfectly. Her family background, enlightening gently the ride and equestrian with generations, the life was distinguished service in the cabaret. The Times noted that it came time for the Fergusons to stand up for their persons instruction. After Sarah's engagement, her great-great-grandfather died on active service with the Royal Horse Guards in 1896, taming the Shantae on the Gold Coast and their generation since, down to her father. Has held a commission of lifeguards. It is a family of old money, but not much. Susie more than compensated for what Ronald lacked in the silver spoon department. She was born Susan Mary Wright into a distinguished Derbyshire dynasty, the daughter of Doreen and Fitzherbert Wright. Her father, after career with the 15th, 19th Halseals, worked as a director for a firm of agricultural engineers. He and his wife raised their son Brian, three daughters, Daviana, Bridget, and Susie, the youngest in imposing Bridgewater House at Grantham in Loamshire. Susie, a beautiful living young woman, cared little for formal education and left school early with no zero level. She enrolled at secretarial school in London, more for the access it gave her to the season and supply of eligible suitors than any ambition to learn shorthand and typing. She was following a traditional path, which led to a good marriage and fulfilling life amongst her own class. As a lady of the Shires, when Susie was 17, she was made her debut in front of the Queen at a coming out of ball at Buckingham Palace. God bless them all. Especially those who make the palace what it is today, right down to the butlers, the guards. All of you! Testing those ears of yours. Marv. Can you hear me now? Okay, good. You thought you were alone holding that rifle? My bad. I was just seeing if you were still awake. Well, some kid was trying to jump in down in front of you, see if you would smile, break your performance all day long. Did it work? God bless you. If I already know the answer. She was always full of jokes, and she loved organizing everybody and everything, said her mother. Doing right, she was frightfully bossy, and all the others teased her about it. but she was brave and full of life. An accomplished writer, Susie's sparkling personality made her an eye-catching addition to the hunting setup, which Ronald Ferguson, a lieutenant of lifeguards and 6-year-older than Susie was, enthusiastic member. If they were animals squared away like I am, they would give you a day off with pay. On whoopsie daisies, did I say that too loud? You can just see this in Notting Hill or Casanova. He fell madly in love with her, both the Fergusons and the rights war of Irish Denison. And when Ronald set his heart upon Susie, he lived up to Galilee's surname, which translates as forceful and vigorous man. But he was romantic as well, or he would never have got anywhere with a very particular Susie. Ronald proposed. Susie accepted. I knew Major Ferguson's mother, Marion, very well, said Dorian. Right. We were all pleased and very happy after 6 months' engagement. The couple were married in January 1956. How many knew that? While the bride was still a teenager, the wedding was an elegant society affair at St. Margaret's Church, only a few steps across a strip of lawn, upon Westminster Abbey. W&L, in a morning suit at 6'2" and tall. Interesting how close that is to my height. Ronald cut a striking figure as he posed with his bride on the lawn. His shiny red hair slicked back in the manner of Mantiago of the period. The reception was at Claridge's, a hotel the Ferguson's family got to know extremely well through birthday treats and now a few traumas. Comfortably off, but not exactly rich. The newlyweds moved into the grounds 3 miles from the Sunnyhill Park in Berkshire. Like every gentrified neighborhood, the Fergusons lived in an inventable style. Summers helped with the domestic duties, and the group tended the horses, which were more essential to their style than any mere motor vehicle. There were invitations to the hunting and polo to San Graham to join the Queen and Prince Philip at riding and shooting parties. This was the era of Harold Supermac Macmillan, whose election slogan, "He never had it," so could inspire the forerunners of the ultimate upriding mobile credo, Thatcherism. The Iron Lady herself, like Susie, a Grabham girl, was elected into Parliament as MP for the first time in the same month. Susie gave birth to Sarah. Sarah Margaret Ferguson arrived without much fuss at the Welbeck nursing home in Marylebone, London at 9:03 a.m. on 15 October 1959. Susie had brought home her first daughter, Jane, from some private clinic 2 years earlier, and the firstborn regarded the new arrival with sisterly curiosity. They were their best friends from the start, a bond which survived the turmoil of the next 30 years. They always got on very well, said one of the sisters first. Apia, sometimes they would quarrel over toys, and Sarah would cry, but she usually got her own way. One of Sarah's favorite pictures from childhood albums showed her as a precious 6-year-old posing in front of her rocking horse. She and Jane loved riding after they were old enough to saddle up their rear ponies. Sarah was wearing a white trimmed dress gown, her eyes raised, appealing, a mischievous smile playing on her lips. The famous golden red curls she inherited from her Ronald had been cropped short in a successful attempt to make more natural friends. Noted. Obviously, a physical similarity between the children Sarah and little orphan Annie. But there was a touch of Shirley Temple as well as an unmistakable air of little actress playing to make a believe audience too young to fear the camera. That was to make merciful in later life, and yet confident enough to express her already outgoing personality. I called my little red hair, said the Apia read Barizio. I still think of her as a little girl full of smiles and red hair. Glad I'm not the only one. Measure our life and let her confident enough to express her already outgoing personality. letting her have it. I called my little red and up here read read by you. Great sense of humor, Sarah's natural ebullience came from her mother, as did the restless, questing side of her character would cause her and others so much emotional pain. She showed a mind of her own, even when it came to the serious business of coming to terms with her maker. At an early age, her parents could never get to say, "Thank you, God," after dinner. Dinner continued the appeal. Instead, she could say, "Thank you, God, for my good strawberries." Sarah liked to do things her own way from the start. Reminds me of that movie, Mary Antoinette. You all thought you had me all figured out. Yeah. When he was serving abroad with the lifeguards and mixing with Susie on the cocktail circuit, God bless those people, by the way. Amazing performance. Ron showed as player at the Guards Polo Club, whose home base was the Smith Long Custom Dance, especially. Prince Philip was in prime as a player, and the Queen and her children often came down from Windsor Castle to watch him complete. As a chubby child with a determination to hold her own, Sarah joined the other children. Prince Andrew included between Chuka's two Stamptown debuts. The Flying Hooves had dug up the playing field. His early assessment, it was said, was she was a tomboy worthy of the name. Horse riding was bred into Sarah's bones. She could ride almost before she could walk. As soon as she was eligible, she trotted off to the guard and South Berkshire Pony Club. On a Shetland called Peanuts, she was highly competitive and born achiever in a sport that required a high degree of risk-taking. She took plenty of tumbles, but unlike Andrew, who disliked riding for precisely that reason, she never gave up. If she fell off, her pony refused at the ones of the fences up. At a gym kahana, she rarely cried. When they came, her tears were of frustration, not of self-pity. Harvey Smith, that abrasive Yorkshireman, with her equestrian hero, her devil-may-care attitude, worked equally well with skiing. She simply did not know the meaning of fear. When her parents took her to the slopes as 4-year-old, she braved the falls without complaining, quickly mastered the skills which made her an intrepid downhill racer or posters and veer beyond Switzerland. She is a great technical skill, said Bruno Sprechner, a long-time ski guide at Costers, who knew both Dale and Princess Diana. It was Diane's family that Spencer's who provided dinner tables for the far from their native Norfolk with a juicy side story about scandals for years during April 1969. When her father, Viscount Johnny Arthur, divorced her mother, Viscountess Frances Arthur, over her admitted adultery with Peter Sean Kidd at Queensgate and South Kensington 2 years earlier, Frances lost custody of her 4 children, including 7-year-old Diana. That year, the Ferguson family moved from Berkshire to more rural Hampshire. When Sarah was 10, after her grandfather, Colonel Ferguson, died of leukemia, bequeathed Dummerdown Farm to Ronald, his only surviving son. God bless them all. It was an event which would bring the unspoiled village a preeminence its 300 souls would have thought possible. The farm gazed Frisian cattle and a flock of sheep on its 876 acres of prime land and stable horses in its yard. In a very practical sense, Sarah became a country girl who inadvertently preferred a pair of jeans to the more ladylike clothes that her father wanted her to wear. Ronald Ryan resigned from the lifeguards. As an honorary measure to accept a captain's pension from the army, he began the demanding, often unrewarding life of owning a farm while still competing with the big boys on a polo pitches around the country. His mother, Marian, a spirited woman who Sarah adored, became a lady Elmhurst after she married Air Marshal Sir Thomas Elmhurst and moved into the bungalow on the farm. Sarah, whose first experienced school life at Miss Laham's kindergarten for children of the gentry, now went to Duns Hill in the town of Old Bassing, not from dumber in there. As well as developing her sports skills, she squad the invisible nickname Fergie. It had belonged to her grandfather Andrew Ferguson before her. How many knew that? Annie had started using her close friends at dancing Hill. Louis, Lou Blackwell, now Miss Edward Hutley, and Claire Steele later. Claire went when family called her Ginge. A cheekily freckle-faced young girl, Sarah was surrounded by people who loved her and people who she loved in return. She had her own horse and her own pet Labrador, which Susie had given her as a puppy. Her mother seemed to be everywhere, driving her to gymkhana, chatting to her friend, and mixing easily with her parents, tending the garden, surprisingly the housework, organizing birthday parties, and Christmas celebrations. She was more like a warmer, precious friend who had grown more beautiful with time than a figure of material respect, always reliable, always the century of Sarah's world, the most commonplace of domestic mishaps. However, was about to tear Sarah's life apart. Her parents' marriage was like that of Diane's parents, falling irretrievably. And also like Diana, Sarah would carry the scars of her next 3 painful years well into childhood. Whatever the initial causes, the breakups started after Susie met the originating polo player Hector Barnes, who was recovering from a personal tragedy they met initially on the polo circuit, but it was during a summer holiday in 1972, to which Barnes had also been invited to the Villa Percha on the Greek island of Corfu, that it became a serious affair. Barnes, a regularly handsome man with a Kirk Douglas dimple on his chin, had lost his pregnant wife Louisa in a car crash near Buenos Aires. The death of his wife and unborn child. God bless you all, Buenos Aires. All over there, in a car crash near Buenos Aires. The death of his wife and unborn child had devastated the big man, El Gordo, as he called. A great bearer of a man who used polo sticks like a telegraph poles. According to his patron, Lord D'Este, the beef baron who brought him to England to play polo at Stowe Park in 1967. Nor was the crash the only tragedy in his life to make the death of his wife even more heart-rending. Lucy had previously given birth to a son who died soon afterwards. Hector found a willing and sympathetic soulmate in Susie, who had become critically ill after miscarrying her 3rd child some years earlier. Her husband desperately longed for a son which she could no longer conceive after a hysterectomy. Susie and Hector fell in love as they talked, walked on the beach, and eventually laughed that summer. From the moment Susie committed herself, she never seriously considered a life without Hector, no matter what price society might make her pay. He made her a complete woman, gave her life a meaning and passion it had lacked. With Hector, I knew real love. She said simply, her greatest worry in the early stages was that her lover might change his mind. I couldn't help wishing it had happened, said her mother, Doreen Wright. But I had to say that Susie found her moutier in life. The neighbors were scandalized. Hector was nothing more than a paid polo player and a foreign one at that. It was the social equivalent of losing one's wife to the gamekeeper. Nor it was isolated instance. Lord Desi's wife Kate ran off with Eduardo Moore, Argentina's best polo player, who, like Barrantes, played for his lordships. The Besties were reunited but later divorced. Susie, however, was unshakable despite the pressure put on over the next few months. If she had fallen out of love with Ronald, Sarah and Jane were still of great importance to her, but stricken, though she was with guilt. She had surrendered to a force more powerful than any she had experienced before. She packed her bags and left home. It was frightful scandal, said Dorian. No one could understand how she could have left the children. To minimize the damage, Sarah joined Jane at a Hurst Lodge girls' school in Sunningdale as a weekly boarder when she was 13. The school had been chosen because it had a reputation as a progressive establishment which made it fulfilling in other than academic ways. Ballet and modern dance were amongst its specialties. Sarah settled in and made friends easily, but she had reached the vulnerable age when she had looked into a mirror and hated what she saw. She had a massive insecurity problem that I used to despair for her sometimes. Julie Adams, a former Hearst Lodge pupil. She was a real stunner even then, but she was convinced she was a hideous Fergie was always wailing, "Oh, just look at the state of me. I'm so fat, my bum's so huge, and I'm so spotty." It was no consolation that some other peoples came from glamorous families in show business, such as Sarah and Emma Forbes, daughters of the film director Brian Forbes and his actress wife Nanette Newman, and Florence Belmondo, daughter of the French film star Jean-Paul Belmondo. The other girls would chat away about the boys they had met, and the others once fancied. Continued Julie, but Sarah didn't have a boyfriend. She used to get really down about it. She always used to ask, what boy would look at me? I'm so ugly. Well, most of you out there, if you say you think such things, you're greatly mistaken. God didn't make you ugly. You were born beautiful instead of all. I like that. Reading on. Her low-life self-worth meant that she had placed some of the blame for her mother's traumatic departures. Firm and unfairly on herself, much as the other girls tried to reassure her, Jillian concluded that deep down she was really sad and often had a quiet weep at bedtime. To compound her sense of isolation, Sarah knew that Jane had fallen in love that previous summer with Alex Mackham, a 21-year-old Australian who had been working with the horses at Treverdon Farm while he improved his polo. Jane was able to unburden her heartache about her past marriage and her fears about the future in letters to Alex, who, although flattered by her competence, felt uneasy. Jane, at 15, was too young for him. For her part, Sarah came to regard Alex Malcolm as someone she, as well as Jane, could trust, and although she infuriated by humming Donny Osmond's hit song Puppy Love, whenever she was at home, she had started to call him my big brother. Bruva, as the love affair would later run into difficulties, Alex had anticipated. He could take comfort from the fact that Sarah already regarded him as one of the family. Sarah, in the words of her former headmistress, Stella Merrick, was not a superficial girl. She had a stubborn streak. This motivated her to make an effort as she became a team player until her self-confidence had time to grow. She was a child who always made the best of everything, said Grandmother Dorian, whom Sarah called Grummy. She didn't dwell on the separation too much. We tried to talk about it. Sarah had a very happy life, and we tried to make sure it continued in just the same way as before. Between the lot of us, she had always someone he belled. At school, things were looking up. Sarah was made captain of the netball team, and she excelled at tennis and swimming. When the girls watched television, she was not afraid to stand up her choice of viewing. If Horse of the Hills was on, she would tune to that channel to matter what argument it might cause. She wasn't top of the class, but she was fairly bright, said Elizabeth Pike. She who shared a dormitory was there where she was enthusiastic, and everyone treated her like her leader because she was so confident. Her friendly attitude, particularly toward younger girls who adored her, saw her elevated to perfect and given responsibility for her first time. She did so well that in her final year she would share the honor of being appointed head girl with Fenella, daughter of television comedian Ted Rogers. I was so uncomfortable they had to make me head girl so I would start behaving Josh, Sarah, suffering the clues of being the naughtiest girls in school. In truth, the job severely tested her sense of loyalty towards her friends. She so desperately wanted people to like her. Being head girl created problems. Explained Jilly Adams, it was a responsible position and she was often called on to bring other girls into line. If they misbehaved, but as soon as she had done it, she would rush around and apologize for pulling rank. She was constantly frightened of doing anything that might upset anyone. For example, the school had a swimming pool, which was strictly out of bounds after lights out. There was also a bunch of us who would break the rules. Fergie would go frantic because she really should have reported it, but rather than get in our bad books by telling on us, she would end up diving into it. If there were any fun, Sarah would be in the midst of it, said Sarah Merrick. She had a very sunny disposition, enormously cheerful, bubbly, and fun-loving. That might have modified her opinion, and she had witnessed one escapade, which fun-loving Sarah became involved with other girls. Jesus, just before one harvest festival, fruitful and vegetables had been piled high on a big table in the assembly hall as a seasonal reminder of nature's bounty. I don't know who started it, said one culprit, but all hell broke loose suddenly. There was a squash of tomatoes, melons, and pears flying all over the place. We all had joined in, pelting each other when weather came down. At one point, Fergie and I were booting a prize mare, which belonged to a very strict teacher. Luckily, we all came to our senses and cleaned up before we got caught. Sarah could also be considered a friend, even if the consequences might be personal or harmful. I particularly remember her taking a risk once just to help me because I was so depressed. Said Jilly Adams. I was homesick and wanted to ring my parents, but the phone was out of bounds. Fergie sneaked out with no one was looking, called my folks herself and asked them to phone me. She could have been in serious trouble if she had been called. Back at Drummer Down Farm, her father, angry and distraught over his wife's departure, had applied the discipline 20 years of army life and had drilled him into him to cope as best he could. He was not only surviving, he did everything in his power to keep the home together for the sake of his daughter. Sons, well, my own father bestowed upon me as my grandmother. To look after his daughters during school holidays on the weekends at home. I went to stay at Drummer one weekend and remember being woken up at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning by having the window thrown open. Said Elizabeth Pipes. Sarah was a very good writer, and we all went to Newberry to watch the horse. But it was never the same for Sarah without her mother. Surely she had learned to cope. On her own, father simply did not understand necessities in life, such as clothes and boyfriends. I wish Mommy was here. She would say Mother understood. Sarah knew that her mother, who had moved into the family's flat, First Street, Chelsea, as a prelude to divorce, no longer loved her father, and that being the case, she was reluctantly became resigned to her absence. The acceptance strength is already important bond between father and daughter, in which to become unbreakable. If ever she could, she trashed along with him into the polo fraternity. She became Ronnie's little girl, Sarah. No matter how far Ronald strayed in his extra-martial adventures, no matter how juicy the scandal, the person who would not bring her to judge him was Sarah. He could always remain her beloved dad. The one man who had been there for her as best he could in her hours of great emotional need. The divorce finally went through in spring 1974 when Sarah was 15 and Jane 17. Sarah was 15 when I left, 15, not 13, said Susie. All too well, the criticism leveled at her. We were very close, and she was totally supportive of what I decided to do. Susie and helped us set up the first of their English homes together near Midhurst in Sussex as a stepping stone to their ultimate goal, a ranch high on the pampas where Hector dreamed of breeding his own polo ponies. They were married in the summer of 1975 at Chester Register Office. If Sarah had ever saw Hector as a home wrecker, she hid it well. It was a mystery of forgiving nature that she could accept a man who was not only her father's arch rival on the polo pitch, but who was his stolen wife. She grew to trust El Gordo as the years passed to love him for the exceptional human being he was. He advised her on many aspects of her life, said Susie. To boost his income, Ronald had taken a part-time job as director of Nielsen McCarthy, a public relations firm based in Mayfair, to advise on polo. Nigel Nielsen, one of the partners of his distinguished World War II veteran, amongst other accomplishments, had taken part in the last cavalry charge in warfare when he was serving with the Transjordan Frontier Force in Palestine. The most unpleasant thing about it was seeing the horses shot and dying, he said, and his shared love of horses gave Sarah an easy point of reference when she met Nielsen and visited his office in Grosvenor Hill. With her father, it was the very first experience of the bold entrepreneurial world in which things rarely happen by chance. When raw exploits at a map order were exposed years later, Nielsen gravely doubted that even that was by chance. There's no doubt about it. He was set up, he said. Sarah also met Brian Morrison in Rough Diamond, who brought a tough East End punch to pull when he joined the Guards Polo Club. In the early 17th, Sarah was 13. Then 13, I saw her quite often until she was 16 or 17. Morrison remarked how she stood out because of her health. Obviously, but she was always smiling, always very happy. She was a nice young girl. Jane troubled her romance with Alex McCammon, giving it Sarah a chance to prove just that. Major Ron had been furious to discover that the young Australian with the whipcord physique and reconstituted accent had taken his daughter's virginity. He had just been appointed manager of Prince Charles' polo team. There was talk that Jane might even marry the heir to the her own. Ronald excited her to Kenya to stay with Susie's brother, Brian Wright, where he hoped she would meet more acceptable young men. From her own class, Jane was strictly forbidden to contact Alex, who had returned to his father's sheep and wheat farm near North Star on the remote border of Queensland and New South Wales. Sarah kept the lovers in touch by writing to each other with news about the other end and that the way, showing what she believed her father's decision was wrong. Her own search for a boyfriend was not bringing the results she wanted. She was a dumpy 9.5 stone, and spots were still a problem, but she was learning to be unselfish. After such soul-searching, Ronald relented. Finally, he allowed Jane to visit Alex at his homestead, Wilgo, warning to taste outback life for herself. Ronald was in the process of falling in love himself with Susan Deptford, a beautiful blonde of 28. He had met through mutual friends during one of his rare social sorties in Chelsea. She was Sarah and Jane's found, to their relief, having a smoothing effect on some of their father's rough edges. If Jane didn't like Australia's two reasons sweetly, she would return home cured of infatuation. Major Ron grunted and agreed. Far from unnerving the slim young Jane, the outback proud, bear-swelling Chalvism, and anti-British sentiment, to say nothing of the heat, flies and snakes only made her more determined. This was God's own country. God's son in the stride argument. She soon picked up in her woman's place, but definitely in her own pony, just like Jane Ferguson with public school access. The snooty social connections stood out like sore thumbs. Jane saw the challenge, and with admirable foolhardy pluck, she accepted. She lived in Alex's tin roof wooden house, set amongst gum trees, on the 8,000 acres Alex farmed on the dusty red plains. It was literally a world away from tiny Dumber Down farms nesting snugly amongst willow and oak and green pastures. But Dummer had, had made a farm girl out of Jane, in which she showed that even castration of a young ram held no fears for her. The local was impressed that their engagement was announced in Times on 9th March 1976. Miss William Alexander Macon, son of Mr. and Mrs. W. A. American of Wilgum, Warnia, North Star, New South Wales, had become engaged to Jane's daughter of Major Ronald Ferguson of Dummer Down House, Hampshire, and Senior Wright T. Barnes of Trinken Lawn, Argentina. Delight for her sister Sarah was bridesmaid when Jane said Alex were married at All Saints Parish Church in Dummer on 26 July 1976. Alex was 24. Jane, still 18, the same age as her mother, had been when she married Ronald. By previous arrangement, Sarah caught the bride's bouquet. Ronald was now engaged to Sue Deptford, organized with the wedding breakfast in a mark on the farmhouse lawn. With Susie and after attendance, the extraordinary person more than the wedding pictures at least, united together one big happy family. Ron and Alpha had sorted out their difference in the most appropriate place. The polo pitch at their handicap team had turned out for Lord Besley's team, at Smith Lawn opposing him in number 4 position. was Major Ron's handicap 5 to gain it in an honorable draw. It was slightly different for the two Susans. No matter how hard she tried, Sue felt she was very incomplete with her predecessor, the glamorous Susie, and she and Ron had delayed their own winning. Felt slightly uneasy about her position. To her credit, though she never thought of coming between Ronald and her daughter, she never tried to turn them against their mother, for what Susie was deeply grateful. Sarah was pleased with just about everything. I'm so happy for you, Big Brother, she told us. I know you and Jane are going to be really happy. Sarah left Hurst Lodge with more than happy memories of swimming nude in the pool at midnight and examining the list of eligible males of her own age. Prince Andrew amongst them, she passed 6 O levels in art, English language, English literature, geography, maths, and biology. She still, however, did not have a boyfriend, and it played on her mind compared with the slim, beautiful Jane. Sarah at 16 was still plump, but she was learning that personality counted as much looks, well, nearly as much. As the newlyweds headed back to Australia, Sarah had plans of her own, visiting her mother in Argentina for the first time. Trinity Locuan, 300 miles southwest of Buenos Aires, was the location Alta had chosen to start breeding his follow up on a herd in preparation for the ranch he planned to build 60 miles away from Pampas. He had Susie already had 4 sons, 24 mares and fowls, and 34 ponies. Hector was buying parcels of richly fertile land for what would become El Porco, Indiana, for fortress, the home had promised Susie at the end of the year. Susie and her bleached blonde by the Argentine sun was thriving, and any misgivings Sarah might have had about her mother's managed to ride on some of the puppy's fat made her adolescence so miserable. She had Hector in stock for hours. They confided in each other a lot, said Susie. Hector was a well-rounded person. He was well-bred and great common sense and optimistic view of reality. He knew how to communicate with people. Like Jane in Outback, Sarah showed a willingness now to help out with the chores, the country wolves whistles that greeted her ample figure as she galloped across the prairie or bumped into a town Hector truck did a lot to boost her self-confidence. She was in a mood to celebrate when she knew reached the ranch that Ron had married Susie at Chelsea at Rich's office, not without testing his new bride's patience to the limit. Ron had admitted the broken home Susie had left behind. It was not a place Sarah could return. It's confident of finding a loving welcome she would no longer need to say, I wish Mommy would tell how soon now secure in their marriage. And her marriage took great satisfaction in presenting her husband with her first son, Andrew, born on 7th September 1978. Sarah had moved to London the year before to study shorthand typing and bookkeeping at the Queen's Secretarial College, South Kensington, for 9 months. It was the same route her mother had taken, and her priorities were exactly the same. The social route of the Queen's Silver Jubilee year, which accumulated Her Majesty and the Duke of Edinburgh riding in her carriage down the mall to the Thanksgiving service at St. Paul's provided for more appeal than intricacies of secretarial know-how. Intricacies. We were both done since at shorthand and typing, said Charlotte, and daughter of former Tory MP Lord of Winton, a contemporary who became a good friend. We used to sit at the back of the class and giggle. There was, though, a serious side to the girls' friendship. Like there, Charlotte's mother and father was divorced in 1974, and coincidentally, her father was also embarking on a second marriage. Fergie is very intelligent, but like me, she was never cut out to be a secretary. So Charlotte, we were all at the college because we knew it was important to get some sort of training, and we both managed to scrape through the course. So much is talked about Sloane's Rangers, but it was practically new. We had to become working girls. Money was very tight. Prager was much like to be rushed into a corner cafe for take-away hamburger and then sipping champagne. Her assessment card did not harp on her lowly position at the bottom of the class with Sharp. Bright, bouncy, redhead, a bit slapdash, be an initiative personality, which she would well use to her advantage when she gets older, accepts responsibility happily. Yet Sarah still confided her deepest thoughts to Jane, 12,000 miles away from in the outback. And in one letter even asked what the point of what's going on question, but she was not depressive in her mood, picked up the enormous one. She started going out, her serious boyfriends, Kim Smith being 6 foot tall and two older more than worldly lives. They had more briefly when Sarah visited Argentina, where Kim's was working on a ranch but was starting a job in the city. But it was Kim's sister Laura's who'd been together, and back in London they hit it off. Home to travel down form to meet Ronald soon and half brother Andrew. Towards Kim, Sarah started a loyalty relationship which followed her into a married life. She was the one woman from the start, says the well-placed royal sauce. When she fell in love, she had felt very deeply and wasn't unfaithful. Kim saw things different when she was too young for Dick to have thought of a long-term couple. He said when it was time to rewind the video, Ronald must have picked up on his hesitance from the beginning because he was urging Sarah to accompany him on a visit to see Jane and Alex in Australia. It was an experience Sarah would remember for years, and not all that fun. When the time came to cut out her big brevia, if Sarah had found her mother's lifestyle among the Spanish-speaking Argentines trifled disconcerting, Jane's chosen home, little worrying, was supposedly primitive like all Bushmen. Alex had loved to yarn to Sarah about his rough and ready life in the back of the and in the child's safety of rural Hampshire is quaintly romantic. But even Jane's descriptive life had not fully prepared her. But she was now seeing for herself there really was a devil to take it. It was a run-down L-shaped house, just as a wooden shack with a pattern nest to keep out their flies, and Poppy Smith, who later worked there. There were 4 bedrooms, and the house was furnished with plain wood cups, cupboards, and tables and chairs. There were just a few family pictures on the walls and cabinets full of polo trophies. The only carpet was in the living room, and that was a thread bell. We're going to stop there, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, but I need to recharge. Like most kings and queens of LA. I hope all of you have a great night, a great week, and tune in for my next viewing of emotional, inspirational hope for the better. They're all cares about you and all the world you so far. Taking away depression, making that a word extinct, along with suicide and everything else. Eradicating such words and giving you a reason to live and keep living. Killing yourself is not the answer, y'all. That's not what any ancestor or family member next to you in the afterlife would want to start with. There are kids in hospitals who would give anything to live one more day, one more year. Especially in front of those that, oh, miracles happen, keep praying. Much love is right here in ElizabethTown Kentucky, here at my home, surrounded by snow. Like that song, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Bing Crosby. One of many songs I sing karaoke and from Sarah Quill, General Combs, and her whole staff, God bless them, sing numerous songs. Still do. Publicly, of course, not just at church, on post, off post, and came for a while. Y'all stay warm, watch y'all health, right here at home. God bless you.